Hi everybody, welcome and thank you for joining me again. I apologize, but without a word of a lie, it took me nearly 2 days to load Monday's video. And why? Because of our internet. In Calitzdorp we have the cheapest service available, but only when the power was off were we without internet. If anything was slow, it was more likely the laptop. In all the years there, we had our service provider out twice or 3 times at the most. Once we made idiots of ourselves because we plugged a wire into the wrong socket or the wrong plug. And once when we moved to a bigger town and upgraded our service. I mean, geez, we also wanted to wear big boy boots. Unfortunately, we went from running to barely crawling. Chronic issues. And when you phone them, they tell you to hold on while they supposedly tap away on a keyboard. Oh, we've changed this setting for you. It should be better now. Not, I'll come and have a look or anything like that. Although they had to travel 50 kilometers there and back to our home before, whereas we are now just around the corner and there's no getting them here to have a look at the dish or the actual repeater itself. I told my daughter that next time we phone, they will likely ask us how many devices we have running, and then they will want to sell us another upgrade. Lo and behold what happened. Just that. The thing is that we have always had the same and even more running on the same network at the same time. Folks, I'm not joking at all. Honestly, teetering on breaking point. It does not feel as if the doctor's new medications are working. I cry, I break down, I get so angry that Harry's red mist is absolutely nothing. I actually go blind with rage. I told a woman in the shop yesterday to stop chewing gum and use her brain instead, because she obviously can't do both at the same time, and she's wasting my time. Okay, I mean, by now, and looking back, it is funny, and quite frankly, she deserved it. But that is not me. I would likely have stepped forward and tried to help her instead, but lately I snap. I'm on the precipice, it seems and feels. For some reason, I cannot stand people talking to me either. Yes, if it's something I'm interested in and I'm not working. But gossip and that kind of thing, no. I just forget to listen because my brain is too busy. My friends, I know it is a combination of depression and severe stress and being by far overtired and overstimulated. But what do you do when a stronger next level medication is not helping? I'm desperate for advice. If any of you have any, please, please, please share it with me. Now, I know that I'm not the only person with worries. I know I'm not the only person hurting. Actually, I think there are people with far bigger and more reasons than me to hurt and be angry. I know people use mental health so easily and also as an excuse for just about everything. But I think few people actually really know what it is and how it feels and what the results and consequences are. In my case, my big trigger at the moment, obviously, like I'm sure many of you, is the constant threat. The threat of a third world war, obviously, but also the threat of all the smaller bullshit. I'm not joking. If Donald Trump once more threatens to blow up a bridge or blow up electricity generating infrastructure or threatens to blow up a salination plant or, like he did last night, threatened South Africa again with more tariffs and God alone knows what else. I will go look for the tweet or the flippin' post again. I am surely going to blow my top. Shut the F up, Donald Trump, and do it already. Stop threatening. We all know what will happen if he executes these threats. Sleeper cells in other countries will start to blow things up in the United States and the United Kingdom and other European countries. Russia and China and maybe even India will become involved, and hello, Third World War. That is, if we are not already at the early stages of a Third World War. However, I do not wish to debate or take sides or anything like that. Not on here. Those are things I write about because in the process I have time to think before I speak or then before I write. What I want to point out is that it is the anticipation, the constant threat, which are driving us to a point where it feels as if the breath is stopping in your throat and every heartbeat is actually painful. Say what you will about Donald Trump, but what he is doing now, more than waging war against Iran, is he is actually breaking people all over the world, innocent people, people who have nothing to do with his war or his wars or anything, nothing. We're all listening to his narcissistic blabber, comparing himself to Jesus Christ and wanting to become the president of Venezuela as well as the United States, and we're holding our breath, waiting to see what crazy shit he comes up with next. And it is the waiting driving us insane. I am personally at a point where I feel he must go ahead and try to blow up what he wants to blow up. Do whatever he wants to do. Just don't tell us about it. Just shut the fuck up, for Pete's sake. If no one is prepared to climb into the ring and stop him, then let him go ahead and live out his fantasies. We ordinary people will go pick up the pieces again afterwards. As long as he takes his Brooklyn mafioso accent and shut the F up. Okay, now I've ranted about that, and I know there will be people who will not like it. Too bad already. I have a fair knowledge of international law, and at the very least, my opinion of the situation is on the right side of that law. And this is indeed an unlawful war, a war of choice, impacting the entire world and killing more people than the millions on the battlefields. Stress and heartache will kill fathers and mothers and brothers and sisters and husbands and wives. And it will all be on Donald Trump. Okay, but that is not where it ends. For hundreds of years, since 1534, more or less, the Protestant faith maneuvered into place in England. And by 1603, at the end of Elizabeth I's reign, it was the dominant religion in England. In short, it was Henry VIII who passed the Act of Supremacy in 1534, declaring himself the supreme head of the Church of England and severing ties with the Pope. However, this was mainly a political act, and because old horny Henry wanted to marry Anne Boleyn. And regardless of all of that, old Henry remained largely Catholic in his personal beliefs. Under his son Edward VI, England became truly Protestant, introducing the English Book of Prayer and stripping churches of Catholic images. Mary I temporarily restored Catholicism, but then Elizabeth I re-established the independent Church of England. Then came the 1559 Act of Supremacy and Act of Uniformity. In the 1580s, those who accepted the Elizabethan settlement became the majority, and by 1603, at the end of her reign, the Church of England and its Protestant doctrine was the dominant religion of the country. Now, my dear friends, I want to clear something up. Something I indeed was also ignorant of. I just went along with the majority like the good old sheep I was and can be sometimes, just because it is easier. Easier than always arguing. Anyway, the actual oath the monarch takes during his coronation is called the Accession Declaration Act of 1910. The part relating to the church and religion reads as follows. I, let's say Charles III, do solemnly and sincerely in the presence of God profess, testify, and declare that I am a faithful Protestant, and that I will, according to the true intent of the enactments which secure the Protestant succession to the throne of my realm, uphold and maintain the said enactments to the best of my powers according to law. Now, the reason why a change was made in 1910 is because in the original oath, emphasis was placed on the denunciation of Catholicism. But since 1910, however, the emphasis is on the sovereign being a Protestant. Defender of the faith is, however, not an oath. It is a subsidiary title used by the British monarchs since Henry VIII. Hence, the FD or FID-DEF after the monarch's name on your currency, which stands for the Latin Fidei Defensor. The title is listed as part of the formal style of many British monarchs since Henry VIII. Charles III is, however, the first monarch to officially interpret the title as Defender of Faith and not Defender of the Faith, as most, if not all, the monarchs before him. Everyone else used the faith because the oath refers specifically to the Protestant faith, i.e. the Church of England. Charles took the oath because if he refused, he would not have been able to become king. You see, friends, you and I and everyone else can choose our religion freely, but not a British king. Under the law, Charles III is legally required to be a Protestant, and there are thus legal consequences if he is to convert to any other faith. One of those consequences would be immediate and automatic removal from the throne. Thus, in my opinion, not only is Charles III in dereliction of duty due to his preference for Islam over the Protestant faith, but so is the British government. because it is their duty to uphold the law. In my opinion, lawlessness starts small. A single word or action can have a chain reaction. For example, not ever as in never in my nearly 63 years have I heard or seen, normal forgetfulness as a defense. Ever. However, having said that, intellectually I know that in very extremely rare cases it can and should work, i.e. when the statutes of limitation also applies. For instance, you are or cannot be expected to remember what you ate on a specific day 15, 20 years ago. Also, in law, the clock on a crime only starts when a person discovers or remembers the crime, such as in repressed memories of childhood trauma. But that is not what I'm talking about here. In civil cases in particular, but also often in criminal cases. I don't remember does not stop or really change anything about a case. It will or can only complicate a case. It does not change, or it should not change, the outcome. Okay? Because there should be enough proof to overcome somebody's snotty I don't remember. Okay? So, the specific example I can vouch for personally is the following. Remember Meghan Markle said in a British court, "Oops, I forgot. And nothing happened. So a few months later, I had a letter from a firm of British solicitors, blah, blah, blah. I told all about it in a very old video. It's so long ago, we don't need any details at the moment, so let's just skip ahead. Well, the important part is that on the advice of a British solicitor, I was told to play their own game. No matter what, you cannot remember. To any and every question, the answer is no longer no comment. It is, I can't remember. And you know what? It may not be the only reason, for all I know, but it worked. So Meghan Markle, through her forgetfulness, actually set a precedent. Now, although technically I was a supposed witness, I wasn't the one being charged, there went the entire case they were actually seeking. Because if your prime witness is deaf, dumb and blind, you have no case. So those two words from Meghan, I forgot, caused the chain reaction with consequences for Harry, Meghan and the royal family. The exact same thing is also happening here. The king, whether he converted to Islam or not, is indeed breaking his oath, which in Britain is not really a moral issue per se, but a legal issue. And the king is acting against the constitution of the land. Parliament, and on behalf of Parliament, Prime Minister Keir Starmer is not reacting or acting on these actions of the monarch. I know many of you are going to say, oh, but the Prime Minister has far bigger issues on his mind. Like what? What could be more important than your sovereign hobnobbing with the enemy of you and your allies? Particularly in a time like this. How damaging is it to have a king who cannot be trusted? How dangerous is it for England to have a head of state having business and private arrangements with your potential opposition or enemy. No matter whether a ceasefire is negotiated in the Middle East or not, Keir Starmer should demand that Charles III break all personal and business ties with his Islamic friends and partners, or to abdicate immediately. Keir Starmer, in my opinion, have the legal right now to do so. Okay, my friends, it was a tough video, also made under tough circumstances, as I was flat on my back with a critically high blood pressure of 190 over 117 last night, and that while I am on chronic blood pressure medication. I took another tablet this morning with little results, so we'll see by midday. At least it is down to 159 over 90. If it is not normal by midday, I will go see my doctor. You see, this is exactly what I mean by people being killed by the deranged narrative of one man. Becoming the president of Venezuela as well. Oh, really crazy shit. He should be removed. Should be. But otherwise, I'm not holding it against the American people. His government should remove him. Anyway, friends, please stay safe. I will be back with a member video later today, and later maybe even with another public video. We'll see how things go. Until then, please take care and stay safe. Bye.